Should I do a different ending? You said thanks for having it. It's fine. I'm like the person that says, have a nice, or thank you. You
It's
too.
fine. Welcome to Read It and Eat It in the Library, the podcast where we talk about my 3 favorite things: books and food and public libraries. Today my guest is my coworker and friend Kirsten Hnatow. Thanks for joining us.
Happy to be here.
And the book that she's chosen today is The Measure by Nikki Erlick. Just a quick summary of what the Measure is all about. One day in the modern times, everyone at the age of 22 or older receives a box with a string in it. Initially, nobody knows what the box or the string are all about, but they very quickly determine that the string represents one's lifespan, and people have different lengths of strings, and they can very quickly scientifically predict how long one's going to live. And so eventually they narrow it down from a couple of years to the month that you will die. And so the narrative follows 8 characters and how the strings impact their lives and the choices that they make. So this podcast happens in 3 sections. Usually the first part we talk about the book, the second part we talk about the food, and the third part we talk about public libraries. But today our food is temperature sensitive, and so we are starting with part 2. And so we have a cappuccino today that is made by may rhyme with Lux. And have you ever had a cappuccino before?
Not this one, I don't think.
So a cappuccino is my least favorite of the traditional coffee drinks. It is made with 1/3 espresso, 1/3 steamed milk, and 1/3 foamed milk. And honestly, it's the foamed milk or the frothed milk that I don't like. So the espresso's on the bottom, then the steamed milk, and then the foamed milk. And it's actually really quite pretty if you have like a clear glass to have. And so ours are a little bit 5 minutes ago. So the froth has really evaporated or gone away, but the general idea is that it's a third.
It smells amazing. I wish you could capture that on camera, but you can't, but it smells good.
And then we also have biscotti. Biscotti is a twice-baked Italian-style cookie, and so you kind of bake it in a log first until it's like kind of set, and then you cut that log into the pieces that you see here, and then bake it again on one side and then again on the other side. And the intention is to dunk it.
Okay.
And so I made these at home this afternoon. If you've had a biscotti from anywhere commercial, you might not love it. They're super dry and just not particularly flavorful. But the things I like about the homemade biscotti is that it doesn't dry out quite as much, so there's a little bit of chew to it. So let's try it.
Well, thank you.
No, it won't. You just dip it.
I'm a bit like Ben, though. I've never ordered biscotti in public because it's going to be messy. I can't even bite it.
It's because our drinks aren't warm enough.
Super classy.
So the general idea is that it's very crunchy, and then it kind of melts in your coffee. So they're a bit tricky to make because there's not a lot of liquid in the dough.
It's really good, though.
And so you have to really work to pack it together, and it seems like it's going to be a flop. And then you bake it, and it all comes together.
Have you made it before?
Yeah. I usually make it with almond extract, but this just has vanilla in it because I didn't realize we were out of almond extract until I got home today.
That's how we roll.
Yeah, that is how we roll. Fun fact, Erin and I had baked biscotti as like the party favor or like the wedding gift for everybody that came to our wedding reception. We had no idea how much work it was until we had already decided that we were doing it, and then it took days and days and days to prepare the biscotti. So anyways, biscotti and cappuccino.
And you're still married.
Yeah, absolutely. So the inspiration from the book comes from about 2/3 of the way through when Ben and Amy kind of meet at Nina and Maura's house, scare the heck out of each other, and decide that they're going to go and have coffee. And Ben's always worried about his chewing, and then they end up in a trattoria. So the other food options, we could have been like anything Italian. They try to pretend that they are in Italy too. But honestly, there wasn't a lot of food options in this book. They do eat a lot, and they go to restaurants and places, but there was no description of the food.
It's good. And I haven't had supper yet, so I'm taking it to heart.
Excellent. Well, biscotti and cappuccino from Ben and Amy.
Well, thank you for making it. It's delicious.
So, if this happened to you, if this happened in our world currently, would you open your box and would you want to know the length of your string? And what would you be hoping for?
Once the book progressed, if I was to open my door and there was a present for me, I am the person that wants to open all the presents. But knowing the string to dictate your life, I would not want to know. I did not want to know. I would have been like Amy. I would have liked it to be I wouldn't want to know.
And I would I would be very hesitant first off because I don't like anything, I'm not a big fan of surprises. But once people kind of understood, I would probably be initially hesitant, and then absolutely, once they discover that it was scientific fact and this is the truth, I would absolutely open my box. I have a couple of justifications that may or may not be accurate, but in my mind, that's the way they go. So Erin and I watch a lot of sports games, and I have the apps, and we don't like commercials, so we watch the sports games behind, like usually about half an hour, so that we can fast forward the commercials and then kind of end the game approximately when the game actually ends. But as soon as the game actually ends, I want to know what the score is, even before we started the game or even we're mid-watching the game, I want to know what the score is. As soon as I know what the score is, my enjoyment of the game increases exponentially, because then I don't have to stress of what's happening with my team. I can just enjoy the plays and enjoy the commentary, and then I know what the result is.
So do you have does your family know? Do you have TELUS? Can they tell? Like,
They don't want
to watch the game with you after?
No, they don't want to know. They don't want to know, so they don't. They don't
quiz me at all. TELUS, like your comfort
level? No, because they just know. Oh, you checked, Mom, and like yeah, I did. I know what happens, and I'm all good with that. The second thing, the second reason I think I would like to know is financial planning, because retirement is not imminent in my future. It's not that far away. And I have had a heck of a time wondering, how do you plan when you don't know, what, I'm going to be 85, I guess wrong, and then I'm going to have to run out of money and then go back to work?
Your reasons are exactly why I don't want to know mine. I don't know how I would change the outcome of that in some circumstances. Unless you have the means to change some of those things, I just want to live my life the best way that I possibly can.
I think that makes sense, and that's not what I want to do. I still want to know, right? If I know I have 5 years left, or 10 years left, or 20 years left, then I can adjust my expectations. I can adjust my goals and figure out what do I want to accomplish with the time that I have left and not run out of time.
So I guess if I got to pick, I'd want a long string, but live it like I had a short one. Just assume that I have a long one, but live my life short.
Okay.
Is that an option?
Yep, I think that's an option. I think I would just want to know, and I don't want to live forever, so I would prefer not like an exponentially long string. Like, I don't want to live to 104.
No, I agree.
But I think I just would really appreciate being able to say, okay, I think I can accomplish these 12 things in 10 years. I'm going to work really hard to make that happen. And I feel like that would give me enough drive to not be frantic towards the end. Just say, like, this is what I got, and it's going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows? So, knowing or not knowing the length of the strings was quite impactful in the characters' lives. If you had to know, if you just opened your box and not knowing what it was and then you found out afterwards, how do you think it would impact your life choices? If you knew, what would you do differently?
I think you just wake up each morning grateful for every moment that you have, which I try to do that right now. My cousin actually started this challenge, and you have to write your 3 daily gratitudes every day. And so I think your lifestyle, it matters how you live your life in that, the short string. I think I'm living my life as if I had a short string. I like to think that I'm doing everything that I would right now, that it's inspiring in the book, and it's a check in your own life. And again, if I won the lottery, that would drastically change where I would travel and those kind of things. But I just think you tell the people that you love them every day. Show up as your best self and be the best person that you can be every day.
Totally.
You?
Yeah, I think just like I said, I had less stress. I would adjust my expectations given the time that I have, and I live my life pretty confidently, but I think I would live more confidently, be more confident in my choices if I had a timeline, a very specific timeline. I'm not sure I would make any sweeping changes either.
Yeah, I don't know that you'd be a pushover. Like, you would do your own agenda a little more, so I think.
There. So Hank says to Ben, it takes real strength to keep fighting, and yes, usually that is the right answer. Keep fighting, keep holding on, no matter what. But sometimes I think we forget that it also takes strength to be able to let go. How does that resonate with you?
I read that a couple times in the book, and I think that's when they were shooting some golf balls. Absolutely. I think everything meaning in life has the polar opposite. Like, you need both sides of that. And to hang on and to let go is, I think it requires the same amount of strength. Absolutely.
You could stay in the same job forever and be mediocre, or you can take a leap and then maybe it'll get worse, but maybe it'll get better too, right?
Yeah, it's an opportunity for growth either way.
Yeah. I'm pretty confident in my beliefs about death, but in theory that hasn't been shaken or tested too much in my current situation. But I'm not as worried about death as some people. I feel like I'm more okay with it than most people. Not that I'm looking forward to it. I just think that I don't have any fear of it. I'm very confident that, there's something waiting for me and it'll be all good.
I align with that. My fear of death is to make sure that I have left things for my children in place, that everybody's going to be okay in the event that I did die.
Right.
But I have I don't know if I have faith. There's peace in death, I think. And then the legacy that you've left behind is in memories and that you've lived your best life.
So the physical book, I started out with a borrowed book from you that had been read by multiple people, I think. And then I purchased the book. And I'm used to reading library books. I'm not used to being the first person to read a book. Let me tell you, this book was one of the most uncomfortable physical books to hold. the binding was so tight that it hurt my hands to keep it open. And I'm not really like a binding bender, but I was like smashing that. But like it was really uncomfortable to read. And like I'm getting older, but like it was like 8-point font.
It was
so
tiny.
tiny.
And I kept falling asleep reading it and like I have bifocals now. It's 46 of bifocals, and it matters when I take off my glasses. And I prefer large print books. It's a thing.
I'm not sure I prefer large print, but larger than this. And when I look at the page count, it was 359. And I wonder if there's something about the publishing industry where they say like keep it under 350, or any sort of thicker book does not tend to sell as well because people are intimidated by it. I don't actually have those facts, but I wonder why, because it just seems like a poor choice.
Worth looking into. That's interesting. But it's just like a coffee cup. Have you heard them say? I don't know why it matters, but it matters what vessel you drink. You have a favorite. You have.
Has to feel good.
A worn-in book, and when you borrow somebody else's books, it's just a little different.
So I really enjoyed this book, and I really thought about it a lot. I found it really quite thought-provoking. I've had multiple conversations with multiple people, even people who haven't read the book, about like, would you, or what would it look like for you, and that kind of thing. But I honestly didn't find it particularly well written. There were 8 main characters, and each of those 8 main characters had other people in their lives that were given names. And I spent a good portion of the time like, who's this again?
Who was who?
You know, like Hank had an ex-girlfriend. She was given a name. I think it was Claire or something like that. And then
Hank was the doctor.
Yeah. And then Hank also had a friend.
Hank's girlfriend opened up his box.
Yeah,
that was Claire. I didn't like Claire.
No, I didn't like her at all. But he also had a doctor friend, Annika maybe. And like these people are not, like they're adjacent to, like they're not unimportant in the narrative, but they're not super important. Like it could have just been a coworker or his ex-girlfriend or whatever.
But they tied it all back together because it was Annika in the war.
They did, but I don't like to fight so hard to figure out who the characters are and whether I should just let it go or if they're important or whatever. Like it took me 3 or 4 chapters to differentiate between Ben and Hank. Because Ben was the architect.
Right.
Hank was the doctor. But I don't know. I'm usually really quite good at that kind of thing, so I'm going to blame the writing.
So speaking of writing, did you expect Maura to be black, and did you expect Carl to be in a wheelchair? Did you see how that was just twisted in there?
I think it's like a publishing thing where, like, yes, there should be diverse representation everywhere, absolutely, but it's just a thing that's inserted in many books for sure. I didn't, and also along with the lines of the writing, I didn't feel a particular affinity to any of the characters. Did you have a favorite or somebody that you liked better than?
Just because I thought you might ask the question, who did I identify with the most? And I, like, out of all the stories and their adjacent partners, I like Ben and Amy's story the best. Like, as far, if that was just a book about, I feel like the book could have made focus just on any single one of those without trying to weave them all together. But then I think that was the symbolism of the string maybe, and weaving lives together.
Yeah, I guess there's symbolism in that. That's a valid point for sure. I also thought the second half of the book flowed much better than the first half. It was just really kind of super interesting but slow going the first half, and then it was almost like she either got a new editor or she hit her stride or something, but like it just, about halfway through the book I was like, oh, okay, this is much better.
I think it was because because she did it globally. Everybody in the world got those strings. And then I think as she sat on it or would talk to a new person in her world in editing, it was a new, how would that impact this in the world? Like new thoughts as the book went on, and then to wrap it all together.
And that being said, this was her first novel, and so I don't mean to be too hard on you, Nina, not Nina,
Nikki.
Nikki, because you've done much better than I could ever do, so no deep, heartfelt criticism is being issued here. I also didn't love the cover. Like, the strings were on the cover, but there was nothing else that, we can't show you the cover for copyright issues, but look it up online. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just, it could have been much more symbolic than it actually was, I think.
Yeah, I looked at it a few times, but I don't know what the symbolism was there.
So there is a real divide between short stringers and long stringers. So long stringers quickly become the dominant decision makers, and the short stringers are seen as dangerous and unpredictable and untrustworthy. The long stringers start to make exclusionary rules and restrictions, and I think this really just rang true to me. Like, it's unfortunately a predictable response for our society. Like, I think she really got that
She nailed
right.
it. Yeah.
But it's sad that
It's so sad. It reminded me, like, not to bring this into vaxxers and anti-vaxxers, but it was the divide and how politics really used the fear-mongering to divide people. And then it was the youth that challenged the 22, I don't know, she was in high school maybe. I don't know how far
Very
off
young,
from
yeah.
22. And what was the movement called? Strung Together movement?
strung together.
I
Yeah.
think that's what it was. And the youth to challenge people that this is change going forward, right?
One thing that is kind of different than reality that I thought could have been an interesting aspect for the author to explore is that, and that she didn't explore, was that eventually the long stringers are going to become short stringers. Not all at the same time, but every long stringer will become a short stringer. And that was not explored, but also the characters didn't seem to have any understanding that they're making all of these exclusionary rules. And then eventually that's going to impact them, which is kind of different from reality, because people's oppositional beliefs don't tend to swing exponentially, right? But in this case, every long stringer will become a short stringer and will have to they'll have to suffer the consequences that they laid out. So I think that would have been interesting for her to explore. Another thing that she didn't define was how many years do you have left to be a short stringer? And I think that might be different for everybody. So
Well, yeah, she kind of touched on it.
there was like short stringers, medium stringers, and long stringers.
Yeah.
But not like, some people would say, if you're a short stringer, you have 2 years are left. Some people would say, no, you're a short stringer if you have 5 years are left. What do you think? For you, if you got a short string, how many years would you have left?
Well, you don't smoke anymore. I don't know. It's unpredictable. That's why, like, it's a story. We don't need to know that. That's like the crystal ball of life. I don't think we're meant to know. I think you
Totally.
get your life and you choices. It's about daily choices. And you kind of have an idea of how long you're going to live based on choices. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you're young and naive and you make choices, but like in today's, I like to think I have a medium string for sure.
Fair. I actually liked that she didn't ever come up with an explanation of where the strings came from, because I think that wasn't the point of the story. But also, even if she did offer, like, I think it would have been dissatisfied no matter where the strings came from. Like, if it had been extraterrestrial, or if it had been a deity, or if it had been some sort of scientific thing, like, I would have been unhappy with any solution. So I was super glad that she just left that out.
100%, because if that was to happen, and that's what she wants, is a hypothetical, like it could be a Stephen King novel, really, as well, like his movies, if you didn't read his books. I think that's the intrigue of the whole story, to imagine it, and that's part of deciding where the theory of the string theory, the where did they come from theory, it challenges everybody's belief, to religion, to like she touched on the different types of religions, on people's beliefs, and how it wouldn't matter how long their string was, but.
Speaking of that, Nina and Maura, they take a trip to Italy where the strings don't seem to be so impactful. And a shop owner explains why. She says, in Italy, we already knew our priorities. We already put the art first, the food first, the passion first, and we already put family first. We did not need the strings to tell us what is most important. And I just thought, it's so profoundly simple, that statement.
Absolutely. And so as I read the book, knowing the premise of the podcast that you created here, which is fantastic, all your favorite things, I was touching on what you may choose. And as I read it, thinking, it's all about the simple things. Like, what would be your last supper if you had a short string? What would you choose to eat last? And just
Pizza, 100%. I would choose pizza.
Oh, mine would be fruit, fresh fruit, and just water. Like, simple. Like, it really boils down to the most simple things in life that we need to be grateful for every day.
Absolutely. So Amy and Ben, I know you didn't have a chance to think about that, so this question, so if you don't have an answer, that's okay. Amy and Ben spend some time in Central Park, and they look at the inscriptions and the quotations on the park benches. And if you had a bench to inscribe, what would you put on it?
If everybody threw their problems in the middle, you'd take your own back every time.
Yeah, I've heard you say that before.
It's my favorite. It makes me think real deep about life, and it could always be worse.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense to me.
You?
Mine would be, once is an accident, twice is carelessness. And I used to say this quite a lot, and it referred to my children spilling their milk on the supper table too many times. But really, it's kind of evolved for me into, you need to live your life very intentionally. So things happen, and that's an accident. But think things through and make your choices on purpose.
I like that. Everybody could be reminded of that once in a while.
It's my thing. So lastly, Amy dreams of living in the Van Wolseley apartment. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. And what her life would be if she lived there. Do you have a dream home, figuratively or literally?
I like to daydream about that a lot, actually, and it changes all the time. Sometimes on Facebook it says choose where you would live, but based on these.
Yeah.
And then mine comes and I'm like, that's not where I want to live. Like, I don't like the big, the fancy. I'd have to be rich to live in the big and fancy because somebody else needs to wash those windows. It could not be me, and I don't want to vacuum. I'm too fun to be born to do those kind of things. So I do love the idea of a cabin in the woods, but not like solitude. I would need people once in a while, surrounded by, I would need to have a library, a personal library, and a sauna somewhere, perhaps.
Ooh, like that.
Yeah, outside, nature, green.
For me, there is a literal house in Regina. It's in the Cathedral area, which is an old artsy area. It is a 2-story house with a porch in the front surrounded by big trees. And it had a colored door, like a colored painted door. Before that was really a popular thing to do. And my mom it was on the route that my mom would drive me to work. And so I would always hope that we would stop at the intersection so that I could just...
What color was the door?
Well, sometimes it was blue, sometimes it was lilac.
I love it.
Sometimes it was red. And so I hoped there was a red light so that I could gaze dreamily at my dream house.
I think, yes, when we go through towns, I always wonder who lives in certain houses, and yeah, some people have amazing taste, and absolutely.
Excellent. So the third part of our podcast is public libraries. So Kirsten, you spend more time at Lloydminster Public Library than most people, having worked here for almost 2 years. What is your favorite part of Lloydminster Public Library?
The people. I love our community, and I really believe we make a difference in the people's lives that come here, and they're all unique in their own ways, and just the relationships we get to develop with them. is in my 2 years here, the people that come to the dance parties and our story times, you're literally watching them grow up. It's amazing.
I love that. I also agree. My family said, like, Harmony's actually said to me, you've never had so many friends in your entire life. Because I said, like, I'll say, my friend, somebody came in and, I helped them with this. And she's like, who's that? I'm like, well, my friend somebody. And she's like, your patron? I'm like, yeah, my friend somebody. Mm-hmm. And it's super cool to build relationships with people who might not have a boatload of positive relationships in their life, and to see the difference remembering somebody's name makes. And yeah.
Absolutely. And I think each interaction I get to have at the library makes me a better person too in my life. And there's so many teachable moments that are like, I don't want to quote Oprah Winfrey, but remember her aha moments, like where it's, oh, yeah. I feel very fortunate to work here.
We are pretty lucky to work here, that's for sure. Did you go to the public library as a kid?
I did. When it was downtown on, 50th? By the
Close.
Yeah. We had story time, and my mom took us there, and we used to, back in the day when you could get cassette tapes. And then at the second location I didn't frequent the library for the reasons I should have. It was usually a librarian helping me do my essays that I didn't want to.
I actually remember having, before even books with tapes, I had books that had LPs.
Wow.
In them. Yeah, I had this little record player that I just loved, and I was very particular about guarding the needle. And
I was the opposite. I'd make it go fast so they sounded like the
oh gosh,
the chipmunks.
I loved the books with the records, or books with the CDs, or no, not CDs, cassette tapes, and that old. Because I could use them before I could actually read. And I felt so fancy that I could actually hear and like ding to know when you turn. Oh my gosh!
I had that one of those, and when you knew when to turn the page.
I can literally hear the tone.
I think mine was Peter Pan.
Oh yeah, I had that one too. Yeah, and Wendy. It was Peter Pan and Wendy.
Yeah,
the one I had, anyways. So Nikki Erlick, the author, has a BA in Comparative Literature from Harvard. She's quite a fancy lady.
Oh, you read the acknowledgements. I didn't get there.
And then she has a master's in Global Thought from Columbia University. And I think that sounds so cool. And I have no idea what it means. You have any idea what a master's in Global Thought would be?
Well, it makes sense when you read the book that she went big. Like, this could have been, in a town. Or she went global and injected a lot of global thoughts in there. So she had a lot to compact into that. So that's probably speaks to the small font. But
I didn't think of that. I think that makes sense. But I maybe start investigating, because I too might want a master's in global thought.
I think I would choose that class in university.
So I would like to end today's podcast with my favorite quote, which was at the very end of the book. And that is, the beginning and the end may have been chosen for us, the string already spun, but the middle had always been left undetermined, to be woven and shaped by us. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
See you next time.